Hello and welcome. I'm Dr. David Hill, and today we're going to discuss nutrition. Now, I happen to believe that nutrition really is the cornerstone for all of our health, and I know that there's very few people who would disagree with that. But to illustrate the point, let me share with you something very interesting, and that is that 9 out of the 10 most impactful risk factors for death are actually rooted in aspects of poor nutrition. What we eat and what we do on a daily basis really is impactful. I came across an article in Newsweek magazine some time ago. This was actually printed in January of 2005, but it illustrates the point perfectly. The article, which is Diet and Genes, the New Science of Nutrition and Aging, it's actually called Nutritional Genomics in Medicine, focuses specifically on how genetic expression impacts our health. And then they tied that with, very specifically, how nutrition is able to control genetic expression. As an example, they talked about a specific protein. It's called apolipoprotein E. Now, apolipoprotein E, as a protein, is a major regulator for cholesterol in our body. They also said that there's 3 variants associated with this. There's an E2 expression, E3, and E4 specifically. E3 by far is the most common, but everyone does not have the same expression. Now, why this becomes so important is because they've identified that if you have 1 or 2 copies of the genetic expression, the E2 protein, you're going to be guaranteed to have low cholesterol. There's almost nothing you can do to offset that. But 30% of the population, unfortunately, has this E4 expression. And if you have the E4 expression, you're guaranteed that you're going to have an increased risk for heart disease, an increased risk for diabetes, and you're going to have higher levels of cholesterol. Now, here's why this aspect of genetics and nutrition is so important. They used some lifestyle choices as an example, and they chose smoking and a few other things, but they said that if a person smokes, they said smoking is bad for everybody. But if a person has this E4 expression, they said it's a total killer. We're not talking about probabilities. It's almost certain you will get heart disease. Now, we are all familiar with genetic expression, and you maybe have even heard your physician say to you, you're genetically predisposed to these certain types of illnesses or diseases. And we're very concerned about that because we cannot change your genetics. But the point of nutritional genomics is, and that what this article is stating, this research, is that although you may be genetically predisposed, those genetics do not have to manifest. And the largest controlling factor is what we do in a nutritional sense. So they use, again as an example, this same genetic expression, this E4 protein. They said if you stop smoking, if you give up alcohol, if you exercise and eat a diet low in saturated fat, this is important, you can remove all of the genetic predisposition for heart disease that is associated with E4. They said not just some of it, but you can remove 100% of it. In other words, even though we may even be genetically predisposed to some type of an illness or disease, it does not have to manifest, and we can control that through nutrition. Now, the argument comes, of course, what is nutrition? Largely, our diet in the Western world has changed dramatically. What we need to realize, however, is that the needs of our body for nutrition, the basic components of nutrition, which is the foundational building blocks of health, has not changed. So we have this huge disparity between the type of nutrition that we eat and the type of nutrition that our body actually needs. And what our body needs is 3 main things in a nutritional sense. We need metabolic and energy cofactors. Metabolism, if we describe it in its true sense, is the way that your body produces energy, the way that your body cleanses itself, and fortunately, the way that your body repairs. Now, in order for those things to occur properly, we need specific nutritional components. We also need essential fatty acids, and we need vitamins and minerals. So let me introduce to you doTERRA's Lifelong Vitality Pack. Why this is so important and why it's functional and something that every member of the family should be doing daily is because it has a renewable supply of alpha-CRS, which is cellular longevity and cellular energy. This is antioxidant protection. This is a vitality complex for cellular function. The Z-omega, which is focused into essential fatty acids and certified pure therapeutic grade essential oils, and then vitamins and minerals and an enzyme complex which substantially help you on a daily basis to meet the demands and needs you have in a nutritional sense. Now today we're going to focus in specifically on the alpha-CRS, and then in a subsequent webinar I'll talk about the Z-omega and the Microplex VMZ. The value of the alpha-CRS is because of the protective quality that it has against free radicals in our body. We're all familiar with free radicals. This is no longer a new term. When you hear the word free radical, think about oxidative stress. It's sometimes referred to that way. Also think about inflammatory responses, knowing that inflammation is damaging to the body. A free radical is an unstable molecule that has one or more unpaired electrons. And why that's of concern to us and why we need to offset that on a daily basis is for two reasons. One, every cell in our body is under attack. Our cells are attacked thousands of times every single day with this type of activity, free radical exposure. And free radicals, the second reason is they destroy membranes, they damage collagen and other connective tissues in the body. There's really several different types of free radicals, but two categories from which they come. One is extrinsic factors. These are things in an external sense, pollution, toxins, radiation. We already talked a little bit about lifestyle habits, about how that can directly affect, for example, smoking a cigarette. Every puff can produce more than 250,000,000 free radicals that are exposed to your cells and potentially can do significant damage. But then there's also intrinsic factors. Our body actually produces free radicals as a byproduct of normal cellular metabolism. So stress, even something, the necessities of life, eating and breathing, unfortunately also produce free radical exposure. Exercise, illness. So how do we offset all of this, that if it is occurring, how do we offset it? What's the design? Well, the design is antioxidants. And antioxidants have very specific function in the body. First off, they're very stable as molecules, and they have one or more electrons that they can share with a free radical. So here's a brief illustration. You can see that we have an antioxidant which can actually donate an electron, and it stabilizes what previously was a free radical. So antioxidants become very functional and very critical in terms of our daily health. Now there's different types of antioxidants as well. There's exogenous. These are antioxidants that we receive from food. And then there's endogenous. These are antioxidants which are made in the body. A good example of an endogenous antioxidant is glutathione. Glutathione is considered to be the master antioxidant in your body. Every single cell in your body needs glutathione, and unfortunately, the older we get, the less glutathione we produce. In earlier webinars and at different lectures that I've done, I've shared with you that citrus oils, oils like lemon, wild orange, and grapefruit, for example, can substantially increase the body's ability to produce glutathione as an endogenous antioxidant. By far, however, the greatest amount of antioxidant protection that we need or that we have the ability to influence is those that we have in an exogenous sense. Foods, antioxidants that come specifically from foods. Now you're familiar with a lot of them, vitamin E, for example, vitamin C. But what's better, vitamins or a category of antioxidants known as polyphenols? I'd like you to understand that polyphenols are actually more valuable and more important than the traditional vitamins that we usually think of when we think of antioxidants. Although we need both, if we can increase the amount of polyphenols that we have present in our body, we can increase exponentially the amount of protective capacity that our body has to be resilient against free radical damage. And in fact, polyphenols, by comparison, are from 4 to 70 times more potent than the traditional vitamins that we think of as an antioxidant, like a vitamin E or a vitamin C. So alpha CRS, one of the tremendous advantages that it has is that it has a lot of polyphenol content. Now we have several different kinds, and you may not be familiar with all of these. We have silymarin, for example, from milk thistle. We have bicolin, which comes from scutellaria root. Resveratrol, this is one that normally most people are very familiar with. But what they don't think about when resveratrol, when they have that discussion, resveratrol, as you know, is this ingredient that's been categorized, comes from the skin of red grapes. We find it in red wine. And so consequently, many people are under the impression that if I drink red wine, I'm getting a substantial amount of resveratrol. And what they don't really realize is that they would have to drink as much as 16 liters of red wine every single day to receive enough resveratrol that would be of value to them. This is one of the reasons why we like to do supplementation and why alpha CRS is valuable, is because we're giving you substantial amounts of key ingredients, and in this case polyphenols, to meet your needs. Alpha CRS has more than 340 milligrams of polyphenols associated with it. So you get a substantial amount that actually makes it bioactive, and we get what we would call efficacious dosage levels. Now, ellagic acid, curcumin from turmeric root, proanthocyanidins, quercetin, we're probably familiar with each one of these, but let me focus in just a little bit on silymarin. As an example, I won't take the time to go through each one of those, but let me help you understand why I say polyphenols are very important and more important than perhaps any of the other choices we could make, and specifically why they're so powerful. So we look at silymarin, and if we compare that to vitamin E, which is also a free radical scavenger, silymarin as a polyphenol is 10 times more potent, more effective than what vitamin E is. Now earlier we talked about these endogenous antioxidants, and I said that glutathione was extremely important. It protects all the cells of your body. It's considered the mother of all antioxidants. Silymarin can support glutathione levels in the liver, which is where we want a high concentration of glutathione because the liver comes under so much stress. It supports an enzyme which helps to negate free radicals called superoxide dismutase, and we can actually increase our levels of SOD if we use silymarin. It supports normal growth of healthy liver cells and mediates inflammatory markers. In other words, it reduces inflammation. So it's more than just protecting the individual cells. It's also about reducing inflammation. And remember, we said that oxidative stress or free radical damage goes hand in hand with inflammatory responses in the body. For that reason, we've also given you boswellic acids in this particular supplement in the form of 300 milligrams per day. If you're not familiar with boswellic acids, this is an organic acid that comes from frankincense resin, oleobottom gum resin. We extract that, we give it to you as a supplement in the alpha CRS. 300 milligrams per day, strongly anti-inflammatory. So again, reducing the damaging effects that we see from oxidation, from free radical stress in the body. Now, polyphenols have additional benefits as well. They can help support the genetic regulation of cellular lifespan and aging. In other words, the lifespan of our cells can increase substantially. But also we can promote healthy mitochondria biogenesis. Now, the mitochondria is important because this is where we produce energy. And remember, we said that with the alpha CRS, we have two components that we're dealing with. One is how do we protect the cells, this idea of cellular lifespan. And then the other is how do we produce healthy energy. Now, a lot of people are turning to things that I'm not in favor of in a nutritional sense at all, and that's energy-type drinks. A lot of sugar, a lot of caffeine. We're all very familiar with the damage that this can do to our body. If we look at how our cell functions, it's in the mitochondria specifically that we produce energy. And we need high amounts of energy and effective amounts of energy in order for us to be able to accomplish what we need to, in a sense of being able to have health in an overall aspect for our individual cells. So the energy factors in alpha CRS, now this is natural energy. We're not interested in using caffeine or other stimulants to produce energy. Remember what we said, if we give our cells what they need, there's these cofactors that they need. And if we supply those cofactors in a nutritional sense, the cells are designed to produce energy, and they will do so with great efficiency. So one of the things that happens from the energy factors that we put specifically in the alpha CRS is that we can increase the number of mitochondria that we have. Remember, the mitochondria is where we produce the energy. We also increase the efficiency of those mitochondria, and it's the byproduct of the mitochondria where this is the free radical production that happens inside of the body. Remember we said normal aspects of daily living, eating, and breathing, we can produce free radicals. Well, we can reduce that free radical production because we substantially increase the efficiency with proper nutrition. So there's all around benefits that can come when we look at the energy cofactors. So what cofactors did we add? Alpha-lipoic acid, acetyl L-carnitine, coenzyme Q10, quercetin. Each one of these plays a very specific role in how your cell produces energy. Now, the side effect of this is that your cell will become more efficient at producing energy, and naturally, your energy levels will increase substantially. Many times I hear individuals discuss how their energy levels have increased remarkably from just taking the alpha CRS. Now we've added another component in the alpha CRS, and it's called Bacopa monnieri. Now the reason why we've added this in there is it does some other things for you. It helps to support memory and focus. It is an anti-stress and anti-anxiety component. This is part of the cellular energy complex associated with the alpha CRS. But it also can affect serotonin receptors. In other words, we can improve our mood. It's neuroprotective. And we give you a substantial amount of this cofactor in that we give you 200 milligrams a day. Now, the alpha CRS really is focused in to cellular longevity and cellular energy. There's other ways that we can measure that. I've shared with you the value of polyphenols, why we need those in efficacious dosage levels. I've shared with you the energy cofactors. Really, with the alpha CRS, we're giving the cell the major components that it needs, the major contributing factors associated with how your body and your cells will run efficiently. But we can measure that. We can measure that through something called the ORAC score. This is the ability, this is oxygen radical absorption capacity. This is how efficiently a substance is able to eradicate or neutralize free radicals in your body. If we look at the alpha CRS as a whole, we would say that the alpha CRS has the equivalent, just taking a capsule of the alpha CRS, has the equivalent of 10 servings of fruits and vegetables because of all of those wonderful polyphenols. But we can put that into a specific score. And if we look at the score, the ORAC score for the Lifelong Vitality Pack is more than 6,800. Now that is substantial by comparison to any other product in the marketplace. Now earlier we talked about superoxide dismutase. We said that this was a specific enzyme that would eradicate superoxide, which is one of the most abundant and most devastating free radicals in our body. So we also have a very specific score that can be analyzed. It's called an SORAC. This measures the superoxide dismutase function in the body. And the Lifelong Vitality has a score of more than 18,000 on the SORAC score. I don't know of any other product in the marketplace that can produce that same activity or that same outcome. The real benefit that you notice with the doTERRA Lifelong Vitality Pack is, of course, how you feel. The difference that it makes for you as you begin to support your body in this aspect of daily, lifelong nutrition. I've enjoyed talking with you about the Alpha CRS. I'm looking forward in our upcoming webinar to talk with you specifically about the Z Omega and the Microplex VMZ. I invite you to try the doTERRA Lifelong Vitality Pack. It is nutrition, and it is foundational to your everyday health. Thank you.